Last segment, we talked about the origin of human government, and in this segment, we're going to discuss the function of human government. We're going to look at Romans chapter 13, verse 1 through 4. I always encourage you to have a Bible nearby, a notebook, and a pen to take notes, write down the scriptures, become as the Bereans in Acts chapter 17, verse 11. Be of a ready mind, but search the scriptures to see whether those things are so. I encourage you also by the word of God, 2 Timothy 2:15, to study to show yourself approved unto God. A workman need not be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth. Remember Romans 10:17. So then faith come by hearing, and hearing by the word of God. Romans chapter 13, verse 1 through 4. I'm reading from the New King James. Let every soul be subject to the governing authorities, for there is no authority except from God, and the authorities that exist are appointed by God. Therefore, whoever resists the authority resists the ordinance of God, and those who resist will bring judgment on themselves. For rulers are not a terror to good works, but to evil. Do you want to be afraid of authority? Do what is good, and you will have praise from the same. For he is God's minister to you for good. But if you do evil, be afraid. For he does not bear the sword in vain. For he is God's minister, an avenger, to execute wrath on them who practices evil. The function of human government. The general function of human government as instituted by God may be said to be threefold: to protect, punish, and promote. I want to read that again. The function of human government. The general function of human government as instituted by God may be said to be threefold: to protect, to punish, and to promote. Number one, the function of protection. The moment Adam sinned, it was obvious that civilization would need some form of restraint and rule to protect citizens from themselves. An example of this function is seen in Acts chapter 21, verse 27 to 37, where Roman soldiers stepped in and saved Paul from being murdered by his own enraged countrymen in Jerusalem. Number two, the function of punishment. Both Paul and Peter bring this out. Paul writes that duly appointed human officials are to be regarded as God's servant to bear the sword, that is, to impose punishment upon criminals. That's Romans chapter 13, verse 3 and 4. Peter tells us that governors are sent by him for the punishment of evildoers. You will find that in 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 13 and 14. And finally, the function of promotion. Human government is to promote the general welfare of the community where its laws are in effect. Paul commands us to pray for human leaders, that we may lead a quiet and peaceable life in all godliness and honesty. You will find that in 1 Timothy chapter 2, verse 1 and 2. I encourage you to listen to this segment once again. Look back over your notes. Read these scriptures once again. Run references and study it and meditate upon it until that word of God become real in your life. And you will surely see the effects of the word of God in your daily lives. Until next time, stay blessed.